Excellencies, good morning again. I start by just buttressing what our leader has said, that elections are not judged free and fair on the basis of the conduct on the day of voting. It's the entire process, the integrity of the voters' roll, the conduct of the electoral officials, the conduct of the state machinery responsible for security, and so on and so forth. I'm sure the EU has always been a close observer of our electoral process, and you can see and feel where things are not going right, and we expect to hear your voice. On the issue of refugees, from Her Excellency, the Slovak ambassador, every country, in fact, indeed, humanity expects that we should not have refugees. That's the ideal situation. But Kenya has been a host to refugees from almost all our neighbors, except Tanzania, that has not given us any significant flow of refugees in our history. As it is today, conflicts in the region have been subsiding, and we have been encouraging refugees where they can find it possible to go back to their countries. Of course, under the UN and other international protocols, you can't force refugees to go back to where they ran away from. So we continue partnering with yourselves and others, and I want to appreciate, having been in foreign affairs for 10 years, the role your delegation and individual countries have contributed towards the management of the refugee situation in Kenya. And as a country, we have also passed a law that encourages some of the refugees to get integrated within our country and within neighboring countries where they would wish to go. So we'll continue doing that to see that we get to an ideal situation where no human being should be a refugee anywhere. If your question was indicating whether we are ready to take refugees from Ukraine conflict, like I've seen countries like Uganda, I think Rwanda, and a few others have made an offer. If it wasn't, then I don't need to go that way. We are too far away from that conflict.
She said something about M-Pesa.
Did you?
Yes. So I was wondering where M-Pesa was coming from.
She mentioned. So what did you say about M-Pesa?
Well, the thing is that, of course, for your countries, as a win-win situation, can you use the potential of the refugees, and if they would like to integrate them. But currently, the situation is that they have some difficulties, practically wise, to do so into your society. One of them being, of course, having different conditions. They cannot, for example, use M-Pesa yet. In order to use the best of the digitalization, to have flying electronic money, in order to, whether you plan, this was just a specific example. My interest was whether you are planning to have something specific on the table within the strategy to integrate or make it easier for the refugees who would like to integrate.
I think on that score, we've just passed the refugee bill, yeah? So which actually provides the framework for integration. I don't know whether, does that answer your question to an extent? Because when was that passed?
Let me just think.
And that, just before I pass on to Doyle, if you have something to say, we have a very comprehensive law on refugees that allows them to go through our schools up to university level, and so on and so forth. But on the issue of M-Pesa, for example, even people at our level, if you don't have an identity, you cannot access the M-Pesa process. So it's something that we can engage in a conversation for you who help in financing refugee activities. If you find electronic money transfers an easier way of managing your resources, it is something that we can talk and as a government find what to do. On the Ukraine conflict, Kenya, since our independence, believes in the territorial integrity and independence of every country. there's no justification whatsoever, howsoever, for any country to invade another. And when such a situation occurs, again, we believe in the multilateralism of solving conflicts through, if it's in Africa, we have our AU Peace and Security Council. If it is the outside Africa, we have the UN Security Council that needs to engage. But we also know that the Ukraine-Russia conflict is very complex. It has taken a lot of dimensions with almost throwing us back to the Cold War situation where you are either a friend of Russia and therefore supporting them regardless of what they are doing, or you are a friend of the Europeans and you support Ukraine regardless of what you feel. We as Kenya have always stood for territorial integrity, respect for every country and its independence. And that position has not changed, may not change, I believe. And we shall stand as Kenya Kwanza government, when we form government, for that respect of each country.
Thank you. Do you want to, I think that's done. Anne, can you speak to something about devolution? And